Rifle Range Road to Clementi. This is the old railway track. It runs a long distance. A bit of history about this railway track. Now, this piece of land was owned by KTM Malaysia, Kereta Api Tanah Melayu Malaysia. It was started in 1885 during the British colonial era. So the first railway runs from Taiping to Port Weld. Now, why Taiping? Because in those days there were a lot of tin mines in Taiping, and they had to send the tin from Taiping to Port Weld. Subsequently, the railway was extended to Padang Besar and Kuala Lumpur. And later, the railway was extended from KL to Dimas, Johor Bahru, Woodlands and Tanjong Pagar. So this piece of railway land is very valuable. Now, this piece of land has been a bone of contention between Malaysia and Singapore for many years. During the time when Dr. Mahathir was Prime Minister of Malaysia, he was very stubborn and he was a big bully. He thought Malaysia was a big brother, Singapore was just a small little brother, fit to be bullied at any time. So Dr. Mahathir was very tough, very stubborn, and he refused to negotiate with Lee Kuan Yew. So for 30 years, this piece of land was unresolved. It was under the control of KTM Malaysia. It was much later, until Najib Razak became Prime Minister and Lee Hsien Loong became Prime Minister of Singapore. They agreed to come to an agreement. So this land was returned to Singapore, and Najib in return got some cash, some land as compensation. So the matter was resolved by Najib Razak because Mahathir refused to give way. He was a big bully. You could see some cyclists along this old railway track. The signboard here says Tanjong Pagar 10.7 kilometers. So I continue walking along this railway track. On my right are some condos. On the left is the private housing estate. I'm just next to Rifle Range Road. So this is a very beautiful track. It has been metal and now it's good for jogging, for cycling. At this time of the day, 12 noon, there are few visitors, only some joggers, some cyclists. I'm just beside Rifle Range Road, walking towards the railway bridge. Now this old railway track is in place, but the old sleepers, the wooden sleepers, are still around. They left it behind. I'm still on the old railway track, the KTM Malaysia railway track. Now the trains have stopped running, and here I could see an abandoned trolley from a supermarket. It's very sad to see all these trolleys abandoned here. This belongs to cold storage. So somebody has abandoned the trolley here, and it must have cost cold storage a lot of money every year to replace. In front of me is the old railway bridge. Some people walking there to enjoy the railway, the old railway, reminiscent of those good old days. This is the old railway track. You can see the wooden sleepers keeping the rails in place, and also the railway clips. Now some of the sleepers are made of wood, some are made of concrete, and the clips are attached to the rail, from the rail to the sleeper. Right, and then you have a lot of granite stones all around here to cushion the impact and the motion of the wheels. There are some gaps here, as you can see. Alright, if you have studied elementary physics, you understand that the gaps were left there to allow for metals to expand during the hot weather. So in front of me, I can see some cyclists, some joggers. There are some very beautiful yellow flowers here, bright yellow in color, with some of the bean pots. So I continue my walk along the KTM railway line. This is an abandoned railway line. No, the trains are no longer running, but even at noonday I could see some joggers, cyclists railway track along this track. So I'm very near to Bukit Timah station, the old Bukit Timah station. So in those days this was quite a crowded place because some passengers alighted here when they travel from Malaysia to Singapore. So here you can see the railway track, the concrete sleepers, and some of the clips holding the rail to the sleeper. Right, this is part of our history. Although this piece of land was once owned by KTM Malaysia, it's now owned by Singapore. Signs here say danger, keep out. You can still see the old Bukit Timah station, the metal gates. So here the sleepers are all made of concrete. The clips are still in place, and the old signboard that says Bukit Timah now on the path just beside the railway track. It's quite surprising that at this time, 12:13 afternoon, the weather is very hot, and yet I could see cyclists, joggers all going along the old railway track. So this track must have some attraction to these people. And here on my right you can see some bungalows, coconut trees, orchids. So very quiet except for the chirping of birds. And here I can see some creepers on the ground. Some purple flowers, Ipomoe tricolor, very beautiful flowers. Taro plants, very big taro plants. So this is the old railway track which at one time belonged to KTM Malaysia, but now the land has been returned to Singapore. So Singapore now has full jurisdiction over this piece of land. It's a very long piece of land from Woodlands all the way to Tanjong Pagar. On my right you see some banana trees. So this is a forest area, a lot of trees here. Some of these trees are very old, very tall, perhaps more than 100 years old. So it's quite shady here, even though it's noon time. Here a tree has fallen, a very big tree. Why it has fallen, I do not know why or how. Possibly it was struck by lightning and the whole tree fell to the ground. And right here you can see all the pieces strewn among the banana trees. I'm now entering the forest beside the railway track. Here you can see some banana trees, some tapioca. Very interesting place. A lot of vegetation. So this is one place that nobody came to visit. So those who afraid of snakes and spiders, they do not come to this place. It's out of the way. So I continue my journey along this very quiet path. Some abandoned helmets here. A lot of abandoned equipment here. So this is one place that nobody came. So I continue my walk into the forest off the beaten track. So this place is full of snakes and mosquitoes. You can see a pair of old boots here. Somebody left it behind. So I'm right into the middle of the forest. It's very quiet even at noon. I believe very few people will come along here because this is a dirt track, covered with stones. And on muddy days, this track will be very, very muddy. So do not come here during rainy weather because it's very slippery. Continue my journey down the slope. This is a very ulu area. Alright, you can see snakes, monitor lizards, monkeys, banana trees, and next I come to a small little stream. Very few people come here. See a small stream over here, many tapioca trees, and this place is very slippery. So do not come here during the rainy weather because the paths here are very slippery, and if you fall, you go into the river right below. A fall of something like 10 meters. So this is a very interesting part of Clementi. I'm coming from Bukit Timah towards Clementi, right into the jungle. So I'm quite far from civilization. Well, it's very quiet here. Few people like to come here because it is out the way. Right? No noise, no humans. It's a very quiet place. I'm right in the forest. On my left is a small river. On my right, the thick, dense forest. A lot of tapioca trees here. You can see some of the tubers here. The tapioca that can be eaten, but the leaves are not poisonous and not to be eaten. So at noon time it's quite hot out here until I go to the forested area with a lot of tall trees. I met a young man, probably 18 years old, on this trek, and he says he comes from Mongolia. He comes here to study in a high school. Here I could see some white butterflies, and this third track is very narrow. It's very muddy here on a rainy day, and I'm coming towards the main road. I could hear the sound of traffic. On my left there's a river with a lot of flowers, pink flowers, water lily, and Victoria and Maisonnica. So I'm just beside the river. A lot of lotus plants, water lilies, a big canal in front, the small path that I'm on walking at the moment, and over there you can see some buildings there. Right on the left is the SNU, on the right is the Ngee Polytechnic. So this is a forested area. Very few people will come this way because it's so quiet. You see monkeys, snakes, lizards, all kinds of animals. I'm now out of the jungle, crossing this river. So Right behind me you can see the thick forest, very thick forest, a lot of tall trees, very quiet in the afternoon. Right, very few people come here because they are afraid of snakes, mosquitoes, spiders and so on. So I'm coming towards Clementi Road where I'll take a bus and go to some place for a drink.